Pregnant wife invites millionaire husband to party, publicly posts a private video of him and Mistress. In a lavish mansion perched on the outskirts of Bel Air, Angela Redwood prepares to deliver the most shocking act of betrayal her high society world has ever witnessed. Her husband, Thomas Redwood, a millionaire real estate mogul, has no idea what awaits him at the seemingly innocent party she's hosting. With a poised smile and vengeance coursing through her veins, Angela stands ready to expose Thomas's darkest secret before the very audience that once envied her charmed life. In this tale of loyalty and deceit, family legacies and cunning games collide. What unfolds next will leave reputations shattered and hearts forever broken. Angela Redwood's world had always sparkled with promise. Born Angela Beaumont, she was the only daughter of Dr. Leonard Beaumont, a respected surgeon in Beverly Hills, and Lena Beaumont, a former Broadway dancer turned philanthropist. Angela's upbringing was the sort most could only dream of: music lessons in sunlit studios, horseback rides on weekends, and summers spent in the south of France. People who brushed shoulders with her at charity galas or society events often whispered she led a picture-perfect life, and, by all accounts, she did until the day she met Thomas Redwood. Thomas Redwood had been as charming as he was successful. He was the scion of Redwood Developments, a sprawling real estate empire founded by his late father, Charles Redwood. Tall, with dark, wavy hair and sharp grey eyes that hinted at perpetual determination, Thomas seemed like the embodiment of high society's golden sun. He attended Stanford University, turning heads not just for his academic prowess, but also for his philanthropic ventures. By the time he was 30, he had multiplied the family fortune several times over, investing in luxury hotels, condominium complexes, and commercial skyscrapers across the globe. The moment Angela saw Thomas at a charity fundraiser in downtown Los Angeles, her pulse quickened. He was there to announce a new Redwood Developments initiative, affordable housing projects for the underprivileged. The idea felt revolutionary coming from a corporate real estate mogul. It spoke of compassion woven into Thomas's high-powered ambition. Angela admired him instantly, not simply for his wealth, but for what appeared to be a genuine desire to impact lives positively. In turn, Thomas was drawn to Angela's poise, her sincerity, and the undeniable warmth in her eyes. Their romance became the talk of the town. The media dubbed them the Redwood royalty, a fairy tale couple who graced red carpets effortlessly, dazzled in every social circle, and seemed devoted to uplifting the disadvantaged wherever they went. Hand in hand, they were unstoppable, forging a brand that spoke of hope, kindness, and luxury all at once. When they announced their engagement at the Beverly Hills Hotel, the photographs graced every magazine cover, from Vogue to Vanity Fair. Society watchers called them the future of philanthropic celebrity power. Behind the scenes, their relationship deepened over nights spent reading architectural blueprints together, brainstorming for charity events, and imagining the future Redwood dynasty. Angela quickly became integral to Redwood Developments, offering public relations insight and helping Thomas expand his philanthropic footprint. She connected the company to her mother's dance foundation, orchestrated black tie dinners to boost Redwood's philanthropic image, and always did it with an unassuming grace that made people feel seen. Yet, there was more to Thomas Redwood than the polished facade. Little rumors, a snippet of hushed conversation here, an odd text message there, hinted that he was not quite the shining knight in all aspects of his life. But Angela, caught up in the euphoria of love, brushed such rumors aside. It was easier to bask in the glow of their shared success than to question the shadows lurking behind his seemingly perfect mask. It began with a delicate shift in atmosphere, one so subtle that Angela almost missed it altogether. Thomas started coming home later than usual. At first, he blamed endless board meetings or urgent calls with international investors in Dubai or Hong Kong. Angela believed him, or at least wanted to. After all, Redwood Developments was on the brink of launching the Redwood Global Resort chain, a massive undertaking that demanded his attention. The late nights could be easily explained by the sheer scale of his ambitions, but after a few weeks, Angela noticed a new pattern. Thomas would become uncharacteristically guarded with his phone whenever she was around. At dinner, if it buzzed, he'd glance at the screen, slip it face down on the table, and say, "I'll handle it later," with forced nonchalance. Once, Angela caught a glimpse of a name that flashed across his screen: Samantha Blake. She had never heard of a Samantha Blake in Redwood's circle of business associates or philanthropic partners. "Who's Samantha Blake?" Angela asked casually one evening, hoping for a straightforward answer. Thomas shrugged, exhaling a shallow laugh, as if the question was borderline absurd. "Just a consultant I hired to work on our new marketing campaign," he said, not meeting her gaze. "She's pushy, always emailing me at odd hours. Nothing to worry about." Angela nodded, but the uneasy flutter in her stomach persisted. Her father had always told her to trust her instincts, that the gut often senses what the mind refuses to see. She recalled her mother's words too, that in every partnership, honesty must be the bedrock, or the entire edifice of marriage crumbles. Angela tried to push the doubts aside, reminding herself that Thomas was far too busy juggling Redwood's many commitments. She reasoned that her own restlessness, her quickness to suspect, might be the product of stress she had recently taken on the planning of a massive charity gala for underprivileged children. The seeds of suspicion had been planted, though, and they were taking root. Late one night, as Angela scrolled through her social media feeds in bed, Thomas snoozed next to her. She remembered Samantha Blake. Curiosity gnawed at her. Opening a new search tab, she typed in the name. Hundreds of profiles surfaced, but none seemed to match Redwood's marketing consultant. Just as she began to feel foolish, she came across a private Instagram account under the name Samantha B. Visuals. The profile picture was too small to make out clearly, but the woman's silhouette suggested a tall, elegant figure with auburn hair. Something about the cryptic bio, for inquiries, email protected, hinted at a marketing or design professional. Angela resisted the urge to do anything further. She placed her phone aside, determined not to let paranoia become the third wheel in her marriage. She wasn't one to pry, nor was she the jealous type. Yet, as she turned out the light, sleep evaded her. The question circled in her mind: what if there's more to Samantha Blake than Thomas is willing to admit? For a moment, in the darkness, Angela almost reached over to Thomas's phone, thinking she could quickly check his messages. But a wave of guilt washed over her at the thought. She was not an intruder in her own marriage. If something was amiss, Thomas owed her the truth. Instead, she closed her eyes, praying this was all just a misunderstanding, seeds of suspicion that would never grow into something real. The Redwood estate, an expansive property surrounded by tall hedges and patrolled by discreet security personnel, served as the backdrop for many social gatherings. This evening, Angela had arranged a casual cocktail hour for her closest friends, a circle that included Julia Hammond, a publicist with a knack for ferreting out secrets, and Lucas Hernandez, a private investigator often employed by philanthropic organizations to verify how funds were used overseas. Angela's parents were also present, along with a few other long-time friends from her charity work. As the group sipped champagne and enjoyed miniature crab cakes, the conversation inevitably turned to Redwood Developments and its latest projects. Julia, perched on the edge of a velvet sofa, playfully teased Angela, "So, what does the Redwood Empire have up its sleeve next? Another skyscraper in Hong Kong?" Angela laughed, shaking her head. "Thomas is more interested in launching Redwood Global Resort chain right now. We're focusing on sustainable luxury." You should see our new eco-friendly designs, solar panels, water, recycling, the works. Julia raised an eyebrow. That's ambitious. Thomas is unstoppable these days. I hear he's been hiring new talent too. Any interesting additions to the Redwood team? Angela nearly spilled her champagne. Julia's question felt like a gentle nudge toward the very suspicion Angela had been nursing in private. She fixed her gaze on the bubbles rising in her glass. Yes, a few, she replied, voice steady. They're working on marketing, nothing too interesting yet. Lucas Hernandez set his glass down with a quiet clink. I've heard Redwood hired Samantha Blake, a bit of a rising star in the digital marketing scene. She's known for her out-of-the-box campaigns. Her father was a big name in advertising, Richard Blake, if I recall correctly. Angela's heart pounded at the mention of Samantha's name. Right, she said simply, forcing a smile. She tried to sound unconcerned, but she noticed Julia and Lucas exchange a subtle glance. Later that evening, once the guests had begun to leave, Julia lingered in the foyer. She tugged Angela gently by the arm and led her away from the others. I didn't want to pry in front of everyone, Julia began, her tone softer now, but I've been hearing rumors. Angela stiffened, carefully placing an empty champagne flute on a marble side table. About? Julia hesitated, then sighed. About Thomas and Samantha Blake. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I'd rather you hear it from me. People are talking whispers of them meeting privately for work sessions late at night. Look, I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but you're my friend. I don't want you to be blindsided. Angela felt her cheeks flush with both anger and embarrassment. She forced herself to keep a calm front. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate your concern, but I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. Thomas is busy. Samantha's new. That's all it is. Julia regarded her quietly, then gave a supportive nod. I'm here if you need anything. When Angela finally found herself alone, she sank onto a chaise lounge, mind racing. Rumors. That word echoed through her thoughts. If it was just gossip, she could dismiss it. But the unease in her heart told her this was more than idle chatter. She recalled the suspicious phone behavior, the name Samantha Blake glowing on Thomas's screen, and his curt explanation. Suddenly she felt a hollow ache in her chest. Could it be true? A voice inside her insisted she had to know for sure. As the last car pulled out of the driveway and the estate fell silent, Angela stared at the chandeliers overhead, shining like illusions of grandeur, and wondered if they would soon illuminate the cracks in her picture-perfect marriage. A week passed, and Angela could no longer contain the storm of questions swirling in her mind. Thomas's late nights hadn't stopped, if anything. They had increased. Worse, Angela noticed a distinct tension in him whenever she approached him about his schedule. While part of her wanted to believe his press releases about Redwood's expansions, the rumors rattled her more than she cared to admit. Finally, one evening, as they sat for a hurried dinner of take-out sushi Thomas's choice, as usual, Angela summoned her courage. Thomas, she began, voice trembling slightly, I need to ask you something directly. He paused, chopsticks in hand. Sure, what's on your mind? People are talking, Angela said quietly. They're suggesting you're spending a lot of private time with Samantha Blake. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to meet his gaze. Is there anything going on that I should know about? Thomas's eyes flashed with surprise, perhaps even guilt, before he masked it with annoyance. Rumors, he scoffed. That's all they are. Samantha's an aggressive marketer, so yes, we have a lot of meetings. She's been instrumental in launching Redwood Global's online campaign. This is pure business, Angela. Why on earth would you give these rumors the time of day? Angela's hands felt clammy. She set her chopsticks down. Because your behavior has changed. You come home late, you guard your phone, and you act distant. We hardly spend time together anymore. I need you to be honest with me, Thomas. If you're in some kind of trouble, financial or otherwise, I deserve to know." He let out a slow breath. "I'm sorry if I've made you feel neglected. The Redwood Global launch is more stressful than I anticipated. Samantha's new, yes, but she's just an employee, nothing more, I swear." His tone was conciliatory, and he leaned across the table to take Angela's hand in his. "I love you, Angela. Please trust me." Relief flooded her, albeit momentarily. Thomas's eyes held a certain earnestness that made her want to believe him. A part of her still feared the rumors might be true, but his gentle words and softening posture coaxed her into acceptance. He apologized for the late nights, blaming them on a chaotic schedule, and promised to make more time for her. That weekend, he arranged a surprise getaway to Napa Valley, just the two of them. They stayed at the Auberge du Soleil, indulging in wine-tasting sessions and long, leisurely walks through the vineyards. For a brief moment, Angela felt her concerns recede into the background. She remembered why she fell in love with Thomas, his wit, his passion for achieving dreams, and the way he could make her feel like the only woman in the world when he chose to. Upon their return to Los Angeles, Angela resolved to trust Thomas's explanation. Perhaps she had allowed gossip to overshadow reality. Yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, a persistent voice whispered that all might not be well. Sometimes, at night, she'd awake to find his side of the bed empty. She would discover him downstairs, staring at his phone or immersed in hushed phone calls that ended abruptly. The moment she appeared, nevertheless, she held her peace. She wanted to be the supportive wife, the partner who believed in her husband's integrity. Ignoring the flickers of doubt, Angela told herself repeatedly that trust was the bedrock of their relationship. She remembered her wedding vows to stand by Thomas through storms and sunshine alike. With each passing day, she prayed that her choice to believe him was not the prelude to heartbreak. What Angela didn't anticipate was stumbling upon Samantha Blake face to face. The encounter happened almost by accident a few weeks later, during a Redwood Developments cocktail reception for potential hotel investors. Angela had decided to make a surprise appearance, hoping to show support for Thomas. She arrived fashionably late, wearing a sleek black gown that clung elegantly to her figure, her diamond necklace catching the glimmer of the chandeliers overhead. Glancing around the opulent ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel, Angela spotted an auburn-haired woman standing near a small group of international investors. The woman's posture was poised, her laughter light and confident. She wore a form-fitting emerald dress that seemed designed to turn heads. Something about her aura, the effortless way she commanded attention, piqued Angela's curiosity. Angela meandered through the crowd, exchanging polite greetings with board members and wealthy acquaintances. Eventually, she drew close enough to overhear the woman's voice. It was husky yet refined, a tone that suggested she was well accustomed to sophisticated environments. Yes, Redwood Global Resorts will be targeting a younger, trendier demographic as well, the woman said, sipping her martini. We plan to harness social media influencers, create immersive travel experiences, and incorporate cutting-edge digital marketing strategies. An older gentleman in a sharp suit nodded in admiration. "Very forward-thinking, Miss Blake," he said. Angela's stomach twisted. Samantha Blake. She took a breath, mustered every bit of composure she had, and stepped forward. "Miss Blake," she said, offering a polite smile. "I'm Angela Redwood." Samantha's eyes flickered in recognition. She looked momentarily caught off guard, as though she hadn't expected Thomas's wife to appear unannounced. But she recovered quickly, extending a graceful hand. "Miss S. Redwood, a pleasure to finally meet you. Thomas speaks very highly of you." Angela felt a tremor run through her at Samantha's mention of Thomas's name. "He's mentioned your work," It's wonderful to see Redwood's marketing in such capable hands. Samantha's lips curved into a practiced smile. Thank you. It's quite an undertaking, but I enjoy a challenge. Thomas has been very supportive, though the conversation was cordial, an unspoken tension simmered beneath the surface. Angela could almost feel the electricity of suspicion passing between them, like two boxers circling each other in a ring, each waiting for the other to land the first blow. To maintain a polite facade, they chatted briefly about Redwood's expansion plans. Samantha complimented Angela on the Redwood philanthropic endeavors, particularly the dance foundation that bore Angela's mother's legacy. Angela smiled, but her heart raced. This woman knew too much about her life, her marriage, everything. And though Samantha appeared respectful, there was something in her gaze, an unmistakable confidence that hinted at a private victory. Angela eventually excused herself, forcing her voice to stay even. As she walked away, she spied Thomas at the far end of the room, engrossed in conversation with a foreign investor. Their eyes met, and he offered a quick smile, gesturing that he'd come over soon. Angela nodded, but she could feel Samantha's gaze burn into her back. For the rest of the evening, Angela flitted from conversation to conversation, playing the gracious hostess. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying every second of that encounter with Samantha. The woman's presence, her closeness to Thomas, felt like a dagger Angela was trying desperately to ignore. And yet, all she could think was how easily Samantha Blake fit into this world, Angela's world, as though she had a rightful place in it. Despite the tension crackling between them, Angela and Samantha soon found themselves crossing paths more frequently. Redwood developments demanded collaborative efforts, especially with the marketing push for the global resort launch. Angela, known for her philanthropic expertise, had been roped into a new campaign that sought to combine luxury travel with charitable initiatives, an idea that Redwood's board found both innovative and image-boosting. Surprisingly, Samantha seemed eager to involve Angela in brainstorming sessions, often sending polite emails inviting her to pitch ideas. Thomas, busy with the overarching business deals, left the marketing specifics to his talented team. He seemed relieved that Angela and Samantha could work together without friction. Perhaps he even believed his repeated assurances had quelled any jealousy. In truth, Angela attended each meeting with a forced smile, determined not to show the raw, unsettling jealousy roiling within her. One afternoon, Angela found herself seated across from Samantha in a sleek conference room at Redwood's downtown Los Angeles headquarters. The atmosphere was taut with unspoken thoughts. Samantha projected an air of supreme confidence, flipping through slides showcasing social media campaigns, influencer partnerships, and projected ROI. Angela jotted notes but kept her expression neutral. After the meeting ended and the rest of the team filed out, Samantha lingered. "Angela," she said softly, her tone shifting from businesslike to personal. "I'd like to ask you something off the record, if that's okay." Angela tensed. "Yes?" Samantha closed the door, then turned to face her. "I want you to know that I respect you and Thomas. I know how you two built Redwood's philanthropic image. You've given so much of yourselves to this company." She paused, a flicker of what might have been guilt crossing her features. "Thomas has a lot of admiration for you." Angela studied Samantha's face, searching for any hint of genuine remorse or shame. "I appreciate that," she said carefully. "Thomas and I have always supported each other's work. It's how we succeed." A pregnant silence followed. Samantha opened her mouth as if to speak, but then closed it again. She finally offered a tight smile, something like resignation in her eyes. "I look forward to our next strategy session," she said abruptly, turning on her heel and leaving Angela alone. As the office door clicked shut, Angela exhaled shakily. She sensed a battle waged within Samantha, a conflict between a professional veneer and some deeper, more tangled emotion. What was truly happening here? Was Samantha about to confess something? Or was she taunting Angela by flaunting her closeness to Thomas, only to dance away before revealing anything incriminating? In the days that followed, the odd alliance continued. Angela began to wonder if Samantha was playing a dangerous game. There were moments Samantha seemed genuinely appreciative of Angela's input, praising her philanthropic vision to other Redwood executives, boosting Angela's standing in the marketing realm. Yet in private, their conversations bristled with tension. Samantha's gaze, once mild, now carried a certain heat, a challenge maybe, or a plea. Meanwhile, Julia Hammond, Angela's publicist friend, urged caution. Over coffee one morning, Julia flipped through her phone, showing Angela a series of paparazzi shots that suggested Samantha was rising quickly in LA. Social scene. Spotted at exclusive clubs, high-end boutiques, and even a glitzy charity gala. In a few of the shots, Samantha was accompanied by men whom tabloids labeled mysterious companions. Thomas was not pictured, but the insinuation was clear. Samantha Blake was no ordinary marketing consultant. She had a personal brand that thrived on attention. Angela wrestled with conflicting emotions. A part of her ached to confront Samantha directly, to demand the truth about her relationship with Thomas. Another part of her, haunted by Thomas's heartfelt apologies and the flicker of guilt. She once thought she'd glimpsed in Samantha, clung to the hope that maybe the rumors were just that rumors. Yet the deeper Angela became entangled in Redwood's marketing campaign, the more she realized how effortlessly Samantha navigated both professional tasks and subtle, intimate conversations with Thomas. At times, she would hear Samantha's laughter echoing through the corridors when Thomas was around. Though Angela tried to stifle her imagination, she couldn't stop picturing them in clandestine corners, locked in a shared secret. Still, no definitive proof surfaced. No text messages, no eyewitness accounts of an affair, nothing but hushed whispers and fleeting interactions. Angela found herself in an agonizing limbo, longing for clarity, yet terrified of the devastation clarity might bring. And so, this dangerous alliance continued, each woman recognizing the other as both collaborator and potential rival. And all the while, the Redwood Empire hummed with progress, oblivious to the storm brewing in the shadows. With the Redwood global resort chain set to launch in a matter of weeks, the entire Redwood developments team buzzed with anticipation. Thomas wanted to commemorate the milestone with a grand unveiling and opulent party to announce Redwood Global's luxury meets philanthropy vision to the world. Naturally, Angela was in charge of planning every lavish detail. She threw herself into this task with meticulous vigor, partly as a distraction from her anxieties. Angela picked a breathtaking venue, the newly renovated Redwood Plaza, a glistening skyscraper in downtown Los Angeles with a rooftop garden that overlooked the city skyline. Renowned for its panoramic views and state-of-the-art facilities, Redwood Plaza stood as a symbol of Thomas's ambition and success. The event would host SIP investors, Hollywood celebrities, international dignitaries, and top-tier media outlets, all eager to see Redwood's next big move. Despite her reservations about Samantha, Angela couldn't deny the marketing consultant's savvy. Samantha pitched concepts like interactive AR experiences, showcasing Redwood's resort designs, curated Instagram booths to capture the event's glamour, and an exclusive fundraiser that would let guests sponsor impoverished communities in various resort locations. Thomas loved the ideas, praising Samantha's innovative mind. Angela watched from the sidelines, a forced smile etched on her face as Samantha basked in his approval. One afternoon, as Angela supervised the florists installing exotic orchids and carefully arranged lilies around the rooftop garden, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the caller ID, Lucas Hernandez, the private investigator. She stepped away from the flurry of workers to answer. "Angela," Lucas said in a low voice. "I've got some information you might want about Samantha Blake." Angela's heart jumped. Her hands tightened around her phone. "Tell me, there's something fishy about her background. She's definitely more than just a marketing consultant. I've dug up records indicating that she used to work as a model for upscale fashion brands. She's also been linked to a couple of wealthy men in Europe, rumors of extramarital affairs, hush money, that sort of thing. Nothing conclusive, but it's not squeaky clean." Angela felt a mix of horror and vindication surge through her. She forced herself to remain calm. "Does Thomas know about any of this?" "I can't confirm, but Redwood's HR records show they did a standard background check. None of this would appear unless they specifically searched for it. Samantha used an alias during some of her earlier career stints, so it's likely Redwood's team never caught on." Lucas paused, then added gently, "Be careful, Angela." She ended the call with her mind spinning. Samantha Blake was no ordinary consultant indeed. If these allegations were true, then Samantha was adept at forging intimate connections with powerful men for personal gain. The notion sent a chill through Angela. She thought back to Thomas's near-obsessive secrecy with his phone, his late-night calls, the undeniable tension every time Samantha was in the room. Yet Angela had no concrete proof of an affair. Rumors and background checks weren't ironclad evidence. Should she confront Thomas? Or should she confront Samantha herself? She weighed her options, then decided neither approach was wise until she had something irrefutable. She resolved to keep Lucas on standby, just in case. In the meantime, she had a monumental event to pull off. The Redwood Global Resorts launch demanded her full attention. For now, Angela would pour her heart into ensuring that the party was a triumph, glittering decorations, gourmet catering, and a star-studded guest list. What Thomas and Samantha didn't know was that Angela had plans of her own. She believed that if there was a truth to be uncovered, the unveiling would happen on her terms. After all, if Samantha was truly after Thomas, how long could they hide under the glow of media spotlights and gossiping socialites? The night of the Redwood Global Resorts launch was a spectacle of wealth, glamour, and aspiration. Dressed in a couture silk gown of deep sapphire, Angela glided through the rooftop garden, greeting governors, film producers, tech moguls, anyone with enough clout to garner Redwood's attention. The air thrummed with possibility. Even the city lights seemed brighter, as though LAITSELF was celebrating Thomas Redwood's crowning achievement. Samantha Blake arrived early, wearing a shimmering gold dress that hugged her figure. Cameras flashed around her as she confidently strolled in, meeting with Redwood executives to finalize last-minute marketing details. Thomas appeared by her side briefly, offering a faint smile that the paparazzi caught on camera. From across the garden, Angela watched, her heart pounding. Rumors might be invisible, but the tension in that moment felt like a glaring neon sign. As the event commenced, Thomas took center stage on a specially erected platform. He delivered a polished speech about Redwood Global's mission to fuse luxury with social responsibility. His voice reverberated across the hushed crowd, detailing philanthropic tie-ins, eco-friendly infrastructure, and the brand's vision for sustainable tourism. The applause was thunderous, echoing across the rooftop, drowning out the murmurs of gossip. Cameras panned to Angela, who stood near the front, smiling graciously at her husband's success. Then came the moment that Angela had orchestrated with chilling precision. After Thomas concluded, Angela stepped forward to thank the guests. But before she delivered her carefully written remarks about Redwood's philanthropic expansions, she paused. With a deft press of a button on her phone, the LED screen behind her flickered to life. At first it displayed Redwood's official promotional video. Then, abruptly, the feed switched. The crowd hushed in confusion as a grainy, handheld video replaced the polished corporate montage. Angela's heart hammered in her chest. She questioned her resolve for the briefest second, but she pressed on. On screen, Thomas Redwood and Samantha Blake appeared, their faces bathed in the intimate glow of a hotel lamp. It was unmistakably them locked in a passionate embrace. A gasp erupted from the audience. Cameras whirred, capturing every reaction. Some guests covered their mouths in shock, others scrambled to look away. Julia Hammond, standing to one side, watched in stunned horror. Angela could practically feel the surge of adrenaline across the rooftop, as if an electric shock had just jolted the crowd. She stood stone-faced, every muscle tense, her eyes never leaving Thomas. Thomas's expression was a storm of disbelief and fury. He lunged toward the AV technician, shouting, "Cut it off! Shut it down!" But the entire system was under Angela's command, her phone linked to the feed. She let the video play just long enough for there to be no doubt about what was happening. Then, with a final tap, she ended the display. The screen went black, plunging the rooftop into an awkward silence. The only sounds were the city traffic below and the collective, stunned breathing of the high society crowd. Calmly, Angela spoke into the microphone, her voice trembling but resolute. "I apologize for that unexpected interruption," she said, "but I felt the need to share a truth before we move forward with Redwood Global's noble ambitions. Honesty, after all, begins at home." She turned to Thomas, whose face was pale with anger and shame. "I will not stand by while you flaunt your deceit behind closed doors." In that moment, time seemed to slow. Phones were already snapping photos and recording videos, capturing Angela's shocking announcement and Thomas's humiliated fury. Samantha Blake stood frozen, her cheeks burning with humiliation, as whispers of condemnation and scandal rippled through the gathering. The Redwood Global Resorts launch, a testament to Thomas Redwood's unstoppable success, had turned into the spectacle of a marital betrayal, laid bare for everyone to see. Pandemonium erupted the instant Angela stepped off the platform. Journalists who had been invited to cover the glamorous launch now clamored for sound bites of a far more salacious story. Microphones were thrust into Angela's face. Camera flashes blinded her at every turn. Thomas, surrounded by frantic PR staff, barked orders to shut the party down. Security personnel scrambled to maintain some semblance of control, but the truth had already outpaced their efforts. Within minutes, the footage had been recorded and shared across social media tweets, Instagram reels, TikTok clips, all capturing the explosive moment when Angela exposed Thomas's affair. Samantha Blake tried to slip away through the back, but she found herself cornered by a small horde of paparazzi. Her once cool composure shattered. Her voice quivered as she insisted there was a misunderstanding, that the video had been doctored. Few believed her. The explicit intimacy on screen left little room for such claims. Thomas reached Angela, his voice low and icy. "How dare you?" he seethed, his eyes sharp with betrayal. "You've ruined everything. Our investors, the media, Redwood's reputation is in jeopardy." Angela stared back, refusing to be intimidated. "You've ruined this marriage," she spat, tears threatening to surface despite her steely resolve. "I merely gave everyone a glimpse of your truth." Thomas's anger flared, then faltered. For a brief second, guilt flickered in his eyes. Security guards closed in, ushering both of them away from the prying cameras. The Redwood executives, many of whom had been long-time loyalists to Thomas, watched in disbelief, their carefully manicured brand image unraveling before their eyes. Meanwhile, the crowd dispersed in a flurry of hushed conversations and outraged murmurs. Governors, celebrities, and business moguls alike slipped out of the venue, all with the same frantic question: how would the Redwood Empire recover from this scandal? Samantha eventually managed to flee, leaving in a sleek black town car that sped into the night. Outside Redwood Plaza, protesters who had come to challenge Redwood's environmental impact found themselves overshadowed by throngs of reporters, each seeking a new angle on the domestic catastrophe. Cheating, betrayal, public humiliation. The headlines wrote themselves. Angela retreated to a small VIP lounge, heart racing, tears now streaming down her cheeks. Julia Hammond found her there, wordlessly wrapping her in a supportive hug. "You did what you had to," Julia whispered. "But this is going to be messy, Angela. The press won't stop calling. Investors might pull out. Are you ready for that fallout?" Angela brushed tears away, her voice hollow but unwavering. "I am. If Redwood collapses, so be it. It's Thomas's making, not mine." Minutes later, Thomas stormed into the lounge, ignoring Julia's glare. He slammed the door behind him. "We need damage control," he said coldly, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "God, Angela, hi. Don't you dare try to shift this blame onto me," Angela cut in, her eyes fierce. "You've been lying for months. You made your choices. Now you can live with the consequences." Thomas's shoulders slumped, the reality of his situation bearing down on him. He knew that Redwood's board would demand immediate answers. He also knew that Angela had outmaneuvered him in front of everyone. His once pristine image as a philanthropic real estate titan had been shattered. With Julia's watchful gaze upon them, he attempted to reach out. "Angela, can we speak privately? Just please." "Let me explain." Angela held his gaze, her anger tempered by a weary sorrow. After a long pause, she nodded. "Fine, but don't expect forgiveness. Not tonight." Thomas gave a quick nod, then beckoned for a Redwood PR manager waiting in the hall. Damage control had become the top priority. But as they followed the manager to a secluded office, Angela couldn't help but wonder if there was any saving their marriage, let alone the Redwood brand. The video, now viral, had unleashed a storm that neither Redwood's wealth nor Thomas's influence could contain. And the worst of it was only beginning. By the next morning, the Redwood Plaza fiasco dominated every major news outlet. Headlines screamed about the scandalous Redwood launch and the high society betrayal. Talk shows speculated on how Angela managed to obtain the incriminating footage. Tabloid columnists dissected Samantha Blake's background with merciless glee. Corporate analysts wondered if Redwood Developments would survive the looming PR disaster. In a twist of irony, Redwood Global Resorts briefly trended on social media not for its groundbreaking sustainable luxury, but for the unfiltered drama that overshadowed its unveiling. While some social media users sympathized with Angela's brave stand, others criticized her for destroying a monumental business event in such a public manner. Regardless of which side people took, everyone agreed on one thing: the Redwood name would never be the same. At Redwood Developments, an emergency board meeting convened at dawn. Thomas, looking harried and deflated, presented a damage control plan. He insisted the affair was a private matter that should not impact Redwood's business dealings. But the board members, most of whom had built Redwood's success alongside Thomas or his late father, were furious. Major investors threatened to withdraw funding unless Thomas stepped down from his day-to-day role. They feared ongoing negative press and public boycotts. Redwood's stock prices plummeted, losing millions in market value overnight. Angela, meanwhile, found herself torn between heartbreak and a strange sense of relief. She had taken a nuclear approach to exposing Thomas's betrayal, and now the consequences were brutally visible. She retreated to the privacy of her parents' estate, a more modest mansion in a quiet, gated community. There, She tried to evade the relentless media scrutiny. Her mother, Lena, insisted she had done the right thing, that no woman should tolerate infidelity. Her father, Dr. Beaumont, offered steady support, taking calls from attorneys on Angela's behalf and screening her from intrusive reporters camped outside the gates. During one afternoon, Angela scrolled through the countless messages flooding her phone. Some came from friends offering emotional support. Others were from tabloids, begging for an exclusive interview. Her social media was awash with comments, some praising her courage, others condemning her tactics. A call from Thomas's attorney arrived, formally requesting a meeting. Angela felt her stomach twist. This was the beginning of what she knew could be a very public, very acrimonious divorce. She mulled over the idea of responding, but bitterness and sorrow warred within her. She wasn't ready to face the legal ramifications, not yet. She needed time to grieve what she had lost. The marriage she once believed was unbreakable, the love she thought was genuine. Meanwhile, Samantha Blake's name surged in the press for all the wrong reasons. Photographs of her tear-streaked face fleeing Redwood Plaza circulated everywhere. Rumors flew that she had been fired, her contract terminated immediately after the scandal. Some believed she might file a lawsuit against Redwood for wrongful termination or defamation, while others speculated she had gone into hiding. Julia Hammond visited Angela one evening, bringing a stack of newspapers and a bottle of vintage Merlot. They settled in the living room, the heavy drapes drawn against the paparazzi's watchful eyes. Word on the street is Redwood's board might demand Thomas's resignation, Julia said gently, pouring 2 glasses of wine. Are you okay with that? Angela sighed, pressing her fingertips to her temples. I'm not sure how I feel, she admitted. On one hand, Redwood is his life's work and part of mine too. But he's the one who jeopardized everything. I did warn him, in my own way, that deceit wouldn't be tolerated. She took a slow sip of wine, letting the bitterness settle on her tongue. I can't pretend I feel sorry for him, Julia. I'm just sad. Julia wrapped an arm around her shoulders. It's a lot to process. You exposed his affair on a global stage. That's not something anyone just walks away from. But maybe this needed to happen. You deserve truth, Angela. And Redwood deserves a leader with integrity. The days that followed were a haze of press statements, shaken investors, and legal negotiations. Thomas tried to salvage Redwood's brand, issuing apologies to stakeholders and releasing carefully worded statements about his personal failings. But his contrition, displayed on a public stage, rang hollow to Angela. In the glare of cameras, she recognized the same man who had once charmed her, calculated, polished, and always in control. Now, however, the mask had slipped. He was a broken idol, desperate to cling to what remained of his kingdom. 3 weeks passed, during which Redwood developments teetered on a knife's edge. Major investors insisted that Thomas step down indefinitely. The Redwood board prepared a hasty announcement naming an interim CEO, Victor Chen, a long-time Redwood executive with a reputation for integrity. Despite the chaos, Redwood managed to retain some of its major contracts, largely due to the efforts of loyal employees who believed in the company's philanthropic vision. Yet the brand's image was tarnished beyond quick repair. Angela maintained her distance, focusing on healing. She started therapy sessions to cope with the emotional toll. She also engaged in quiet philanthropic work through her mother's dance foundation, finding solace in teaching underprivileged kids. The rhythmic beauty of dance reminded her that even pain could transform into art, given time. But the confrontation she had avoided was inevitable. Late one afternoon, Thomas showed up unannounced at her parents' estate. He slipped past the press outside, aided by the discreet back entrance Lena Beaumont still allowed him to use. Angela found him in the drawing room, staring at old family portraits. There was a weariness in his eyes she had never witnessed before. "Angela," he said quietly, turning to face her, "I know I don't deserve your time, but I needed to see you." She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You have 5 minutes." He swallowed hard, shoulders sagging. "I resigned from Redwood today. The board made it clear I have no future there, not while this scandal rages. Victor Chen is taking over." Angela nodded. A small part of her ached at the finality of it, but she kept her expression firm. "It's what the company needs." Thomas stepped closer, hands trembling. "I want to apologize. I know you might not believe me, but I never meant to hurt you. Samantha was. It was a mistake, a terrible lapse in judgment. We started working together, and he paused, his gaze dropping to the floor. "I don't have a good excuse." His words fell into the silence. Angela searched his face, remembering the man she married, a visionary, yes, but also a caring partner once upon a time. "You humiliated me," she said, her voice trembling. "You betrayed our vows, and you did it so brazenly. Why? Did you think I'd never find out?" Thomas shook his head slowly. "I don't know what I was thinking. I got caught up in the pressure, the ambition, the adoration that came from everyone around me. Samantha was new, exciting. It was an escape, Angela. I was weak." A tear slipped down Angela's cheek, though her voice hardened. "You destroyed your own empire, Thomas. And worse, you destroyed the trust I had in you. I don't see a way back from that." Thomas closed his eyes, as if bracing for the final blow. "I understand. I won't ask you to forgive me or to stay. I just wanted you to hear me say, I'm sorry." Angela studied him for a moment, then walked past him toward the large bay window. Outside, the sun was setting over the manicured lawns, casting a golden glow. "I'll let the lawyers handle the divorce," she said quietly, not turning around. "As for Redwood, I'll stay on the philanthropic boards. But beyond that, I want no part in your life." Thomas exhaled, nodding, though tears welled in his eyes. He lingered a moment, as though hoping for some small final grace. But Angela remained silent, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Realizing there was nothing more to say, Thomas left, the echo of his footsteps trailing through the silent halls. As the door closed behind him, Angela sank into a chair, her body shaking with sobs she had held back for weeks. Outside, the paparazzi might still be waiting, hungry for more drama. But inside, she felt strangely relieved. The showdown, as painful as it was, had at least given her closure. Life after the scandal proved a bittersweet tapestry of heartbreak and possibility for Angela. Legally, she and Thomas separated, initiating a divorce process that would untangle their shared assets and philanthropic endeavors. With the Redwood brand's identity in flux, she retained a seat on a new philanthropic council chaired by Victor Chen, who recognized Angela's genuine passion for charity. Redwood Development slowly began to rebuild its image under fresh leadership, focusing on transparency and ethical business practices. Samantha Blake vanished from the Los Angeles social scene, rumored to have moved to Europe. Some reports claim she was living under a different name, while others suggested she might try to reinvent herself in another high-profile circle. For Angela, Samantha's fate mattered little now. The mistress was a ghost from a painful past she intended to leave behind. Reclaiming her independence proved challenging. Angela discovered she no longer needed to consult Thomas on every decision, from philanthropic allocations to personal finances. She took time to travel abroad on her own, visiting Redwood's resort properties in Asia and Africa, ensuring the philanthropic tie-ins were carried out ethically. Witnessing children in impoverished regions receive education, housing, and healthcare funded by Redwood's initiatives renewed Angela's sense of purpose. Despite the betrayal she had endured, the philanthropic missions she once championed with Thomas still resonated deeply within her. Her parents stood by her as unwavering pillars of support. Dr. Beaumont, who had witnessed his daughter's heartbreak, encouraged her to find solace in volunteering at free clinics. Lena Beaumont opened her dance foundation to more community outreach programs, giving Angela a creative outlet to help teach dance therapy to trauma survivors, an endeavor that also assisted her own healing process. The joy in children's eyes reminded her that resilience is born from adversity. Julia Hammond, ever the loyal friend, coaxed Angela back into select social events, urging her not to let scandal define her. Although paparazzi occasionally snapped photos of her, tabloids eventually moved on to fresher gossip. People in social circles whispered, but many admired Angela for her courage. She had stood up for herself in a world where appearances were everything. In quiet moments, Angela reflected on the marriage she'd once cherished. She remembered the early days of love, the philanthropic galas, and the shared dream of building Redwood into a force for good. That vision, she realized, was never just Thomas's, it was hers too. If Redwood still had a chance to become a beacon of ethical luxury, perhaps her contribution would be the moral compass it sorely needed. Gradually, she learned to embrace the future. The Redwood scandal, while devastating, had revealed a strength she never knew she possessed, a resolve to confront deceit head-on, even at the cost of public spectacle. Stepping out from Thomas's shadow, Angela came to see that her worth was not measured by a marriage certificate or her husband's empire. Her path forward was hers to shape. On a warm spring morning in Los Angeles, Angela stood at the Redwood Children's Center, watching a group of kids run through a dance routine she had choreographed. Their laughter filled the air, echoing off brightly painted walls. In their hopeful smiles, Angela recognized her own rebirth. She had survived betrayal and emerged stronger, choosing to pour her energy into creating goodness where once there was only heartbreak. With the hush of a brand new day stretching before her, Angela closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The past, seared with scandal, was behind her. Ahead lay the promise of new beginnings, guided by hard-earned wisdom and an unbreakable will to persevere. Though the Redwood name might carry the weight of shame in some corners, Angela Redwood, standing tall in her own right, would continue moving forward, forging her own legacy of truth, resilience, and unwavering hope. And so, in the wake of a grand betrayal, Angela Redwood redefined her life's purpose, emerging not just as a survivor, but a leader with her own voice. The scandal that once threatened to destroy her ultimately became the catalyst for an unshakable resolve. She chose healing over resentment, growth over bitterness, and in doing so, paved a path for new beginnings. But this story is far from over. Will the Redwood Empire fully recover? Can Thomas ever atone for his mistakes? Will Samantha resurface, reinvented for yet another twist? We invite you to continue this journey with us, sharing your thoughts on love, loyalty, and second chances. If this story captivated you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support fuels more dramatic tales, real-life reflections, and gripping narratives. Thank you for watching, and remember, the truth finds a way of being heard, no matter what.